Well, we have the famous Joe Rice here on this episode of What's New in Data, putting you on the
Oh,
spot.
how you
How are you
doing?
doing, Joe?
I'm doing good. I'm just slightly jet lagged. I just been getting over that, but otherwise, I think I'm good.
Yeah,
Obviously, in
yeah.
German, I think net is nice. So, yep. How are you?
I'm doing good. Every time I catch up with you, I always like to ask you where you've been, and it's always some exotic answer. Uh, I'll just ask you. I mean, we're recording this in mid-March. Joe, where were you last week?
I was where was I? Germany. So in Austria. So I specifically spent some time in Munich, and then Zelensee, I think is how you pronounce it, in Austria, which is in the Alps. So, um, winter data conference put on by actually Chris Tab. He's
Yes,
the elite
great
data
Chris
crew.
Tab.
Yeah, my kid drew a Chris Tab mug for me. So, yeah, it was a great one. I think you were at Skid last year over in
Yeah,
Verbier. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. This is the new version of it with probably a more official sounding event name. Not skiers in data, but winter data conference instead. So it was a lot of fun. Great turnout. Um, the Alps are lovely as always. So yeah, but now I'm back in Salt Lake City, or it actually snows more here than it does in the Alps apparently. So, but
yeah. I remember last year when we were at Verbier, you were mentioning that, you're from Salt Lake City and there's like 50 Verbiers in Salt Lake City. So
yeah, I sounded kind of
around
like a
Utah.
that's it. I seemed a bit cocky about that, huh? But it is true. Yeah.
It is true. So, it's not cocky if it's true. Everyone knows that you put out this book, The Fundamentals of Data Engineering, and it's
Yeah.
received such great acclaim. It's one of my favorite books. I recommend
Thank
it
you.
to every data engineer because it's both theoretical but also very practical in how data engineering is applied. And now, all your world travel and events you speak at and companies you work with, it's all kind of rooted in the success and how people have really been captivated by your book. What's it like just uh continuing to work with people who've read your book or know you through your book?
It's kind of surreal, really. I mean, yeah, and I mean it's coming on 3 years old now, which is kind of crazy since it was published. So it's interesting in that way where there's definitely I think we knew it was going to be successful just because on Amazon it was a number one new release in a bunch of categories before it came out, and then it obviously still does really well. But it's definitely it's still a bit surreal. To see posts about it every day on social media, like literally every day, there's a new post about it still. So that's pretty cool. Definitely grateful for the success it's brought. And I feel like, um, just thankful that at this point, a book will be successful on its own merits and through word of mouth, not because of marketing. So apparently people liked it. So I think that that's pretty cool. It's definitely opened up a lot of opportunities. I think changed, definitely my trajectory and stuff. At the same time, I'm always on to the next thing, so I don't want to be like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, who remember that character. So he's just so for the audience, Uncle Rico. If you haven't watched Napoleon Dynamite, he's the kind of washed up high school football player who still reminisces about his glory days when he almost won state championship back when he was in
If
high
coach
school.
just put him in,
Coach would
he'd be in the NFL.
he'd have mansions and women and all this stuff, cars. Um, yeah, and I mean that's the danger though, right? Because I think if you rest on your laurels, um, and aren't working on the next thing, and then then I think you do risk becoming kind of Uncle Rico in that way. So once the book was done, I kind of, definitely gave a lot of talks, and I've been very grateful for the success. But I was just on to the next thing, working on that, or next things, I guess. But it's definitely cool, but it's weird, at this stage. I think, especially through the podcasts and being more visible, going to conferences and definitely getting noticed, or in some cases, hate to say it, but probably mobbed. And then, uh, even in public, just walking around, getting noticed in public. So that's always interesting.
I've witnessed it. Yeah. I mean, people are like, "Hey, dude, get out of the way. Joe Rice is here. I want to talk to him."
Pretty nice.
Um,
Yeah, no, it's funny. Yeah, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm thankful for it. I mean, it's definitely takes a bit of getting used to, but by this point, that is what it is. So
yeah, and people ultimately, I mean, it's one of those books that, it is, it's in the title. It's very fundamental. And, now data engineering is changing in a lot of ways,
mhm.
but also it's going to stay the same in others, like a lot of the core principles of data management and pipelines and data
Yeah,
modeling. I don't expect that to change too much, but the way people write code for data, um, is definitely going to change, just because code generation is also getting disrupted in its own way.
oh yeah, it's ubiquitous. Yeah, but that's how it goes. But I always wondered, our book came out right before ChatGPT hit the scene.
Mm,
Yeah, not right before, it was like 5 months, 4 months
mm,
actually. But what's interesting with that is, I kind of called it, the data engineering lifecycle is not going to change. The undercurrents won't change. You're still going to get data from source systems. You're still going to need to make it secure, your system secure. And I would say more than ever, actually, data management and data operations and governance and modeling is actually more important than ever,
yeah,
precisely because of AI. So so I think it's been driving a lot of interest in data engineering. As at the same time, as you point out, data engineering itself, at least the way we do it, it certainly is changing. You're not
yeah,
handcrafting code anymore. Code gen is becoming more and more of a thing, which I think is it's a blessing and a curse. But it's reality. You're not getting away from it. So, you know, yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. And but I also want to ask you. So, we talked about fundamentals of data engineering being, just over 3 years old now. Um, what are you working on now?
Well, I have a new company. Kind of hinted at it. Uh, it's publishing, it's education, it's media, it's a lot of things I've been doing. So yeah, you want to talk about like definitely. I think jumping into what the book provided. It provided me a lot of opportunities to, I think, become more involved in media and education and so forth. I did a course with Andrew Ng and the deep learning fine folks there at deep learning last year. That's on Coursera and that's done really well. But I think doing that and a few other things that, reminded me like I really do like education and I want to focus more on that. I think one of the biggest gaps we have in the industry is you know uh, we have great tools. I think our ability to use these tools to its fullest potential is really hampered by our skills and knowledge, and so I think helping upskill a new generation of data and an existing one of engineers will help push us forward. That plus AI, great skills, and AI will help you do great things. But AI on its own, without having great skills, I think is could be a recipe for some pretty interesting outcomes. So that's one thing I'm focusing on right now. So my new book is going to be out on this new company. There's a few other books being written as well. But
Nice.
but it's an interesting thing. I'll ask I'll answer a question you didn't ask, which was why do publishing in an age where you could seemingly just make a book in an hour or probably half hour and get it all published on Amazon.
That's what I was thinking of asking you. So,
Thank you. Set you up just perfect for that. Thanks, John. Great question.
yeah,
Uh, you're welcome. But I think with AI, people are you're already seeing it. People are getting tired of AI generated content, especially AI generated slop, as it's called, which is just low
yeah,
quality, writing, low quality images and videos and so forth. And I think that more than ever, there's going to be a really strong need for people for really strong human generated, human created ideas that are going to help push our industry forward.
yeah,
This is something that I don't think AI can do, at least not yet, but at least for now. Um, I don't want to write technical books per se, like, how to do, uh, AI engineering with Python or something. I don't think that needs to be a book these days. That's something you can ask Claude or ChatGPT and get a pretty good answer. So I think the tactical work and the tactical types of books I don't really want to do. But I think the big idea books, the ones that are really going to push our industry forward, those are the ones I'm interested in. So for the audience, if
Yeah.
you have an idea like that, hit me up. But yeah,
And that's what's so important these days. There's, as you mentioned, AI slop is definitely uh, a, a strong label that's been attached to a lot of the, you know, not to sound redundant, but slop that's been put out there. And you
oh
log
yeah,
into LinkedIn and, there's like so many posts that are like clearly AI
there's
generated
so
because
many.
they all use the same, they all use the same kind of writing style. They'll, because it's trained on, very, very specific types of media. And, you can just tell like within, 5 seconds of looking at a post, whether it's generated by ChatGPT or not.
Oh yeah,
And but I think what people are going to be craving now more than ever is hearing from experts, right? And hearing from people who, like you said, have big ideas that will actually have a big impact within an organization,
yeah.
because people are kind of more scrutinous about, just things being built, because we know AI can build things too. So, what's to say that, someone just didn't tell ChatGPT to build something for them, but,
Yep.
they're doing it in a way that's grounded in fundamentals
Yep.
and, based on experience and really solving business problems.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the litmus test is going to be people will gravitate towards like really good books, really good writing, really good podcasts, right? These are, human exchanges, and in person, right? I think this is increasingly going to become more and more viable. Um, and what I think is actually I was doing a podcast today with Jordan Morrow. We were talking about public speaking, um, and it's interesting because I think increasingly giving talks is going to be one of the differentiators between people who write real stuff and can talk about it, um, in a public setting, especially during a Q&A. Like I think that's going to distinguish the experts, the people who wrote books and who know what they're talking about when they write the book versus just having ChatGPT generate a bunch of garbage they probably couldn't speak to, or
Yeah.
understand. So I know with my book, I mean, I counted probably over a dozen, throughout a few years, probably a dozen different books titled Fundamentals of Data Engineering, which are all kind of knockoffs of Matt and I's book. And I download the samples of them and I check them out on Kindle, and it's exactly what you'd think. There's no thought put into it.
Yeah.
There's not, if you were to ask these people to give a lecture on data engineering, I'm pretty sure none of them would, because they're probably not people. They're bots under pen names. There's one guy on LinkedIn, I think, who wrote a book under my name, but I'd love for him to give a talk on the topic and let's see what he can do. Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. If you, especially people who generate a lot of AI content, they just want to publish it. But, if you ask them about any of those topics, ask them like one hard question about it, unless they have Claude in front of them,
Yeah,
won't be able to tell you much.
that's just
Uh,
it. That's just it. I mean,
but
even
like,
yeah.
and
What's up?
I deal with that a lot too, because if being in this industry, you're constantly researching, you're constantly learning, you're constantly like trying all the new patterns and frameworks that are coming out. Like, model context protocol,
Yeah,
for example, was a kind of a opinionated way of writing your AI apps to fetch external context. And they say it's like having like a USB-C uh, input for AI. And, there's so much slop generated around it where like the first 2 or 3 times I read about it, I was like, this is garbage. MCP is stupid. And then finally, like I found people credible talking about it and the way they talked about it, I was like, oh, okay, now it makes sense to me.
right.
Right. So you're almost, it's almost hard to not throw the baby out with the bathwater when, there's like all these people generating AI slop about things that are actually valuable.
Yeah,
Um, it's hard to get around that. So it's good to like with the company you're building, you're gonna sort of have those lists of like curated minds
that's
of
just it. You just
you
have
know
you get the best minds on the planet, producing the best ideas, and I think magical things would happen. And treat them well. That's the thing. Got to treat people with respect, and Especially authors and creators these days. I think that more than ever, they because right, coming up with the idea is one thing, right? But then you got to help market and distribute, which is something most traditional publishers don't do. The sad thing is, if you write a book, you're also responsible for marketing it, and that's something it's a difficult skill set for somebody to have, right? And so that's another thing where get the ideas out there, get good ideas from great people out there, and I think the rest will take care of itself. But if you market a book though, right? I mean, marketing is only going to probably push a book or a piece of content for maybe a week or two, right?
Yeah.
It has to be good to stand on its own.
And I guess what's the definition of good? That's
People will
something
tell
that,
their friends about it. People will tell their friends like this is worth your time, you know.
yeah, it's really interesting because it's similar to the music industry, where like music industry has, what are called tastemakers,
Mhm.
and they're the ones who influence, the big playlists, who the big music publications will talk about, what plays on the radio, even though radio is kind of lost
Yeah,
these days.
what's that?
But
Yeah.
okay, the big Spotify playlists, right? Uh, the big Apple Music playlists, etc. So like you see these DJs who basically decide kind of like, they have the curated mindset to say, what's good and bad. And uh and Joe, you're a big music aficionado yourself. You actually are a DJ, right? So you do have
Mhm.
incredible taste, just because, and I've listened to your sets, they're good. I think just being able to curate a great like DJ set already shows that, you understand what people want to hear, one way or another.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing as understanding, what data patterns make sense or are adoptable and practical.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I don't know, when was the last time you DJ'd actually?
In public, gosh, that must have been maybe a year ago or something. Um,
We both
yeah, and
did
it's
Chad's event,
that was
Chad
November.
Sanderson's event.
It was November 23, actually. So that was a while ago, right?
Oh yeah.
Gosh. But yeah, I always carry my USB stick around with me if I travel. You never know when you're going to find turntables, and it's kind of fun. But yeah, I've just been pretty booked. I haven't had time. I mean, I've been there's a there's a very good chance I might be doing some local gigs here just to go DJ at some clubs and probably do some more live sets too. Like I have a whole live kind of hardware setup that I like to play on. But curation, right? I mean, I think DJing taught me a lot about kind of how I approach, what I'm doing now, right? Like I think you just sort of develop a sixth sense for where things are going, or more importantly, need to go in our industry. And so you think at a certain point you can help shape the discussion. You can help shape where things go. And that's pretty cool to do. I'm doing that with data modeling right now. That wasn't really a cool topic for a bit until I mentioned start writing a book on it. I'm not saying didn't write it for all of it, but I think it definitely helped push that back into the foray, right? So I think at a certain point you can kind of determine where trends go. Um, or you can at
Yeah.
least see where they go, right? But you have to be in it for a long time to know the patterns that are hidden behind the patterns. And it's but everything, I think a lot of things in our industry, they definitely move in cycles. They kind of go in a pendulum. And you just, I think once you understand the rhythm of it, I can't say you can predict the future, but can certainly tell where things are likely going to be going. So even with AI right now, right? I mean, it's new. It might shake things up a bit, but when you get down to it, there isn't much different from when you saw other, significant technology patterns emerge in the world. Of course, there will be
Yeah.
differences, but it's not like this is like brand new out of the scene, like it never happened before. We never had a new technology. Like
Yeah.
it happens a bunch.
Yeah, and like when I look at the way you approach it, I mean, you have both, a STEM technical academic background and the actual industry background building, analytics and data science and data infrastructure, for large companies. But also this kind of intuition about kind of, what's good and what's bad. And that's always subjective, right? People debate it a lot.
Oh, for
So
sure.
who's to say one person's right, one person is wrong? But I think what's sort of indisputable is that, when you put pen to paper and you put out that book with Matt, Fundamentals of Data Engineering, and it was just widespread acclaim. People agree with it. And when you generally go talk, people are captivated, interested, and and then even coming back to DJing, right? Like great DJ sets. So we were just talking about you were putting me on to FIAC, and speaking of mispronouncing names, I call them FJack. Um, and it kind of reminds me of this quote. I actually saw it on X from Sam Lambert, the CEO of PlanetScale. It's a database company.
Yeah.
He says, "Do not work for anyone who doesn't love music. They will never build anything that humans want." And I think you
Mm,
were one of the first people I thought about there, because I
that's
was
pretty
like,
cool.
because that's the CEO of a database company saying that. So like, what does a CEO of a database company care about, like people having musical tastes? But then kind of when you connect the dots and you meet people, across the industry, like there is actually, some relation there.
Oh, tons. I mean, you're a musician. I would say you're a very classically trained musician, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely my days at San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and then I had my own artist project. I go
Mm.
under a pseudonym though. It's very secret, and I try to keep it separate, right? So people don't kind of, because I was always kind of insecure about that too. Like, okay, people know about like my music, that they might not take my work in data and engineering as credibly, because they'll be like, well, how do you do both? Like, 'cause I feel like that can
Yeah.
confuse people.
I think those walls are diminishing though, right? Like social media has sort of broken down a lot of the barriers between, public and private persona. I mean, for God's sake, the CEO of Goldman Sachs is a DJ. Um, and I think a pretty popular one at that, Diesel, David Solomon, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I don't think he has any, qualms about, oh, I'm the CEO of Goldman Sachs. Nobody can know that I DJ. No, I think he uses that to almost to his advantage in a bit. I mean, we're talking about it.
yeah,
And I think just the walls between public and private, whatever. I mean, it's, depending on what you do, obviously, but I don't see any. I think data needs more of that really, where it's kind of a boring industry. What we sell database systems. Woo. I mean, that's cool. It helps make the world go round, but so does music, right? And
yeah,
I think, and I meet a lot of interesting people as you do too in the industry. And I think, the because you see, yeah, especially at conferences. Conferences are hilarious because you meet people and they have to put on the conference face and then wear the conference attire, usually a suit of some sort. But then you hang out with these people after maybe the after hours of the conference, and these people are nuts. So I think that's so I kind of hope that a lot of these walls get broken down, right? Like I just think that I don't know. I'm much more impressed when I think there's a level of credibility to somebody and a level of authenticity. I think where if the barriers are pretty indistinguishable, then I think I can trust you a lot more for one, right? Because I know you're not like hiding. I know you're not full of crap. So I think
yeah, yeah.
that's me. But that's how it is. That's the trajectory of the world is going, though, right? Like it or not, it just is what it is. It's John Coutet. You can either change your name to your pseudonym or unleash the music onto the world under your real name. But I think it would benefit you.
I tease a bit on your Discord, which is something else that I want to talk to you about. So
Mm,
you launched a Discord channel called Practical Data. Tell me
yeah,
about that.
practical data is it's really an extension of the Substack that I had. So I'm releasing early sections of my book, usually in draft form on practical data modeling. Substack. .com. If I had half a brain, I would have just called it practical data because then I can have more books that I'll be writing on there as well. But here we are. And so we had this chat group going for a bit on Substack, but Substack chat, it's pretty mid, as the kids say. So um, I was like, okay, so let's make a chat, just community. I was thinking, okay, do I want to use Slack or do I want to use Discord? I joked, maybe I'll use Teams, but I'll
Yeah.
just keep it really corporate.
Yeah.
So,
Can they bring Skype back?
Skype, I could bring Skype back. That'd actually be funny. We could use WebEx. So,
Oh, amazing.
that'd be hilarious. Actually, maybe I should do that for April Fools. Um, I'll write that one
Yeah.
down actually. But anyway, so I think it's so I started a Discord group and soft launched it to about 100 people, and that was really fun just to see how it would go. Right, is this even worth pursuing or not? Um, and then open it up to a few more people, and now we're also like 1,100 people. It's not huge, but I think the quality of the conversations I've heard from quite a few people that it's definitely their favorite data community to be involved in because it's just very candid conversations about our practice, right? And I have other channels as well, so you can talk about if you want to talk about politics, there's a politics channel. I don't care, right? As long as you keep it civil. There's an unhinged channel. You want to talk about just the craziest stuff you can think of, go put it in there. I don't care. Um, we opened up a new one about sports the other day, so we can just talk about whatever sports you're into. So I think it's because what you realize is there's when you start a data community, most people want to talk about everything except data. And again, this comes back to DJing and working in clubs for a while too, where I think you just get to know human behavior at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and people have a lot of facets to themselves. They want to talk about a lot of things, and a lot of times the last thing they want to talk about is work.
Yeah.
Especially in a chat setting. That's one reason I didn't want to do Slack or anything because it's like that format is too familiar to you because you associate that with your job.
Yeah. I think just having, yeah, like, and just like you understand people better and, because all this, talk about like data infrastructure, like everyone has an opinion on it. And unless someone has like a really, is really grounded in something that's just absolutely proven, it's all up for debate. Then you get people together to just chat about stuff. It's the same way, like, oh, I think, this football team's gonna win the Super Bowl this year based on like
Yeah,
my opinion, right? And like people just chat about it the same way, right? And it's just open-ended and casual. And I really like the kind of the Discord because people both talk about data the same way they just talk about other stuff,
it's
right?
just right.
And yeah,
Well, what you realize too is culturally, data is one of these topics where there are all cultural nuances to how we work with data, right? How we architect systems and how we build them. It's not like so. What I realized, especially in the travels, as I'm sure you have around the world and talking with people, is like you have to take into account the geographical situation that you're in. You have to take into account the business culture that you're in. Nothing is monolithic. When you're trying to sell, for example, say stream into a company, it's like there are other factors you need to consider besides just typical am I talking to the qualified buyer?
yeah,
Am I hitting a pain point? It's like that's basic stuff, but it's also how do they get to the situation they're in?
yeah,
What's the team like it's going to support this? And a lot of this comes down to, the nuances of the culture that they happen to live in. Oh, in our Discord group, we got people from all over the world. And even people in Europe. It's Eastern Europe is different than Western Europe. It's different from UK. It's different from Nordics, right? And like it should be obvious, but I got called out on this the other day. I was in Munich, and I asked one of my friends, what is her thought on I think it was maybe AI innovation or something like that in Europe. And she's like, well, but you got to understand. I mean, we're in Germany. That's different than it's not Europe. But I was like, thanks for the reminder. You're absolutely right. But you realize the data world is a pretty big place, and and everyone's got their own opinions on how to do stuff, and you can't just. I think all too often, especially in America, we try and paint it from the broad strokes of well, this is how it's done in the Bay Area, for example. So therefore, everybody is the same, right? Or this is how we do it in New York or wherever. But that's certainly not the case. Um, so
yeah. Yeah, and I think coming back to taste, a lot of this data stuff does, and it's not new necessarily. Like when you look at like the role of a data architect in the enterprise, like usually like some domain specific team, a software team or a business team will say, hey, we want to do these things. It'll technically work for us. Data architect, what do you think? And the architect will
Mhm.
shoot it down just because they think it's a bad design. And there might be some technical principles that they're applying there, but a lot of times when I see it, it is sort of like a form of taste making. Like I just
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know that pattern. Like I've never heard of it. And it's even though it technically might work, that I don't know if it'll be resilient or scale. They might shoot something down because of that. Right. And it can be a little arbitrary. So it's super interesting to see how that also correlates with what you're doing with the Discord, where I see people talking about announcements of new data tools and
Yeah.
like open source frameworks and like what stuff vendors are pitching. And they haven't tried it yet. Well, some of them have tried some of the open source stuff, but like
Yeah.
even with stuff they haven't tried, they're just inserting like their tastes and their view on like just what they think about it broadly.
Yeah. Yeah. I always get a kick out of that. Um, yeah, sort of having an opinion before trying it. Yeah, that's something I personally always want to try and avoid. Well, I very rarely will talk about vendors specifically too, just because I don't know. I mean, for better or for worse, if I say something, it does have an impact on things sometimes. So I usually keep quiet. But other people, I mean, they definitely post things, and it's cool to see the enthusiasm and sometimes lack of enthusiasm, maybe warranted or unwarranted. Um, but that's how it is. I think people bring a lot of biases to how they evaluate tools and technologies, and but that's the fun part about our field, I suppose, is uh, if a vendor is liked or disliked, that could change. I'll give you an example. I will call it a vendor. Microsoft. They were sort of, I think, for decades considered sort of the great Satan in the tech world by developers. Now they made a huge change. Remember 10 years ago, one of my friends, she went there to go work at Microsoft as a Python advocate. I was like, what are you doing? This is nuts. Now it's like
Yeah.
they're making some of the biggest strides with Python, and Guido's there, and so they have amazing tools, right? I mean, the VS Code is widely used. So, I mean, things could change, right? And so
Yeah.
I never write anybody off. And at the same time, I don't really get too hot on things because it's like it's good for today. Who knows how it is tomorrow? I take a very, I guess, Zen-like approach to all this stuff because, as you know, you're around long enough, there's things kind of flow like water, and that's how it is. So, but I think that's a good example, of what Microsoft did. I mean, they've gone from, I think, not being popular except if you're a Microsoft developer to non-Microsoft people using it. I think it's awesome to see. I mean, I used WSL on my Windows laptop, and I think it's fantastic. So, kudos to them. They did a great job. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And Power BI is ubiquitous, and
yeah,
Azure
yeah,
Azure is everywhere.
it's everywhere.
You know, and
Yeah.
speaking of BI, one thing that you mentioned with AI BI is that old school BI dashboards are kind of following the Lindy effect. How do you see them being disrupted by this concept of AI BI or AI in general?
I mean, it's interesting. That was, I think, a post from a bit ago, and that spurred a lot of discussion, I think. It was a podcast I did about old school versus new school BI. And you are seeing this. I think that there is chatter about how we can just put a chatbot in front of everything. You don't need dashboards anymore in the old school sense because you can chat with your data. Um, so I guess the questions I had was, did the data change along with this new interface, or is it the same data? Because if it's the same data, most of the questions that you need to run your business are probably already answered, I'm guessing, in a dashboard that's been there for probably quite a while, right? Like, what are the trends of my sales? What's my my operating margin and so forth, right? Like, whatever user statistics you have in your app, whatever you're into, right? I mean, those probably have been, I'm guessing, I hope, been answered in a dashboard of some sort or a report. But who uses these?
Yeah.
Right? I think by most accounts, BI tool adoption is never hit above 25% in most companies. So my,
Yeah.
my question was like, okay, so if usage has been pretty low, across the board or at that level. What makes you think that with given the ability to chat with your data that you're going to ask different questions and that was the ability to ask questions the only thing that stopped you from not looking at your dashboard before?
Mm.
And my answer to this is it's going to probably be both. Like I think old school BI, it still accomplishes 80-90% of what you need. Those other 10-20%, sure, if you want, that'll certainly make it faster than trying to talk to an analyst who might take weeks to build a report for you. Um, but so I think the question is both because I kept seeing these very binary reactions where it's yes, you need new school AI, EI, and the old school stuff is done for. Or, the other camp's like, no, that's all garbage and it's has to be the old school stuff. I'm like, maybe it's both. I don't know. I mean, I always, like I said, always trying to be flexible in these ideas because I don't believe in absolutes when it comes to technology. Things move too fast and things improve. Like I think the people who say that it's always going to be old school BI and like large language models are useless is like, yeah, they're just looking at today's hallucinations, right? It's not accounting for the fact these will improve. They have to.
Yeah.
It's like, so um
Yeah. And I
yeah, it's
remember
just
like, we were chatting about this over text, and like for a long time, people were ragging on, including me, ragging on LLMs for being bad at math, right? Like, okay, if you give it like a division problem, it'll get it wrong. I think I sent you a passage from Chip Wen's book, where yeah, you can just give AI a calculator, or it'll write some Python code, and suddenly it's amazing at math, right?
yeah.
So AI just gets better and better with tooling or improvements, reinforcement learning, better models, better inference time tools, RAG getting better. So, like you said, I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, you can't just look at how it's working today and see it hallucinate once and be like, oh, it's never going to work.
Oh yeah, and I mean the classic counter example is like how many times have you asked, maybe a teammate or an employee about something and maybe they get it wrong, you know?
You know,
What are you just gonna discount humans because one of them got a question wrong? Are you gonna fire that person? Probably not. I mean, that'd be pretty heartless and
fire all
mostly excited.
humans.
Fire, I mean, yeah, I mean some AI accelerationist thinks it's what you should do. But it's a classic, Upton Sinclair quote. What is it? It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. So I think that's one of the truisms in our industry and in every industry, really. It's, if you're incentivized to ridicule or promote something, that's what you'll do, often at the expense of having a uh, you know, uh, being able to hold two opposing viewpoints in your mind at once, which apparently is a sign of intelligence if you're able to do that. So, but that's the paradox we're in right now is more and more the AI tools they're getting pretty good. And now this is supposed to be the year of agents, and so we'll see how that goes. But it's only March, so we have some time.
Yeah, I expect a lot to happen between now and the end of the year for sure, especially with agents and just there's so much going on with AI engineering as well. And like I said, we were chatting about that over text, and especially as it applies to data, if people can just kind of chat with data, they're going to ask different questions. Then, okay, I get this pre-canned report with some, filters and dimensions that I can apply to it, right? But if I can just say, hey, really colloquially or casually, like, tell me how my business is doing, or, show me which customers are happy, show me which customers are unhappy. There has to be this first, sort of interpretation of what the user means,
Yep.
right? And then has to go kind of pre-process that against the existing, data models, which comes back to data quality.
Yep.
But first, looking ahead, right, you have to come up with the right SQL query. Like, this is a classic Texas SQL. So like understanding what types of questions people ask, and how it relates to your data, and then understanding, is that answer what they're actually looking for or not, right? And this is just, naturally like an agentic problem, right? It requires reasoning, it requires chain of thought. So do you see agents becoming a big part of BI as well?
I mean, I suppose so. Um, I mean, you got me thinking though about something where it's if you think about dashboards, sort of as we used to think about the three big TV networks back in the day when people would watch TV. I mean, you brought up radio too earlier in the conversation, right? So it was that famous LA station KROQ, I think it was. Um, People used to have limited sources of information, right? And in some ways, I think that was good,
Yeah.
where there was a common set of beliefs and common set of decorum and standards of ideas. Internet happens. We're able to search for whatever we want. Social media happens. Now we get into filter bubbles. And so if you draw these same conclusions to being able to chat freely with data, but you don't have, I guess, a deterministic way of knowing which queries people are looking at, the SQL queries, that is, right? Um, I think this could be a very interesting outcome in businesses. Because John, you'll be looking at your reports and say, well, I asked this prompt here and I got this answer. I'm like, that's nice, John. I asked this question here, right? And without us knowing SQL, do you think that that's going to improve the situation where BI is already messy? People have a lot of questions about data. So this is an interesting scenario you just brought up to me that I was thinking about, like, because it reminds me of what happened with news and information in greater society, where now everybody there is no sense of truth anymore. There is no sense of ground
Yeah.
truth anywhere. You can't agree on what's a fact right now in the news. It's whatever
Yeah.
your social media feed tells. And I think it's interesting because I do think that this actually could happen with these bots, unless there's some sort of governance, on the queries, making sure these are consistent. So what does this do for data quality? I mean, you better hope that your data is good quality, because bad quality data with even SQL queries that are slightly different, but different in very important ways, that'll
Yeah.
lead to some very interesting outcomes. Ones that I would shudder to think about if I was running a business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It could just become like an evolution of like the existing BI products. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to look at what OpenAI put out. I mean, we're
Oh yeah,
recording
yeah.
this in mid-March, and they just put out like their first data analysis agent. Uh,
Love to see it.
and yeah, and it's gonna be. I still don't really think it's possible for AI to really, especially with just how messy data is, and like, the relationship between like what the data says and what's reality within a business. Like, even like if you look at like data in Salesforce, where you have, 500 columns that have like similar semantic meaning, but you have to know the sales ops uses actually this column, not this one, when they say,
Exactly.
lead source, right? They have like five, they have like dozens of columns for lead source, but the one that you
Lead source
actually need
one,
is
2, 3, 4, 12. Yeah.
so like an agent being able to understand that, right, is almost impossible, because everything kind of relies on, yeah, that person in sales ops to explain it to me, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you hit on. I mean, you've seen this before. I mean, because you live in reality. So it's like this is the kind of stuff you get to deal with all day as a data integration vendor, I'm sure. It's just how you see databases. You're like, what exactly is this that we're looking at right now? Right.
yeah,
That's reality, though. So
yeah. So, like I see all these LinkedIn posts, and I'm sure you've seen them too, where it's like, oh, bad data equals bad AI. And, it's really popular to say, um, you know, and it's very true, but I don't know if that's like and every vendor claims they're the solution to bad data, of course, right? All you need is one more vendor, data quality vendor, and suddenly all your problems will be fixed. Uh, but uh, but I don't know if that's a surmountable problem, right? Because just when you see, okay, like the last 30, 40, 50 years of data infrastructure, and even these new sophisticated startups, tech startups coming up, I mean, the thing that's always the least sanitized and at least structured is like the analytics process, right? So yeah, you get these curated reports that solve like very specific burning business problems or questions that, you know, the data team knows the CEO is going to ask. But just having this, you know, broad data lake that you can chat with and answer questions, no one's cracked that yet, but it requires a lot of other problems to be solved, which just take a lot of brain power and honestly people who have like intuition for how the business actually works.
Yeah, it turns out, and a lot of these problems that you see in see data sources, for example, or whatever, right? If you look at again the classic continuum of people, process, and technology,
Yeah.
um,
That's exactly it.
the culprits have a lot of bad data models, for example. It's not because you don't have technology to do it, right? It's like often it's at least these days that the common thing I hear from people that want to model their data and want to put some cycles through it is, I don't have enough time to do it. I don't. I'm not given the time to do this. I don't have. I'm not given the budget. I'm not given, this, that, or the support to do data modeling. And so I just need to, cram some stuff into a database, and we'll call it that. It was interesting. I was talking to someone recently who runs engineering at a fintech company. This company started out as a startup, and now they're publicly traded. But he described his job as, basically buying more bubble wrap and duct tape to put around the data systems, and that's pretty much what happens on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Because decisions were made early at a startup, which at a startup, that's how it goes. Things move fast, but there wasn't the attention to say, well, is this thing going to scale when we're successful? And now that we're successful, should we maybe not? Maybe we should figure out an alternative to putting bubble wrap on this thing. Nah, just keep putting bubble wrap on it, right? So it's always about incentives and outcomes.
Yeah.
Like if you're not incentivized to do something, the outcome is, well, I guess you get to be a master of bubble tape and bubble wrap and duct tape. So
Yeah.
that's how it
I mean,
is.
speaking of that, I mean, you even brought this up in your community, your Discord and your pod, which is that there's a lot of people feeling more burnout in the past
Yeah.
in the data industry,
Mhm.
and people in big tech who just feel burned out because there's too much going on, too much, you know, bubble wrap, duct tape, and you know, not enough incentives, not enough budget. Do you feel like it's worse now than it was in previous years?
I think it is. I think it is. And it's not just in tech, really. It's like, I think it's just this general sense of malaise I'm seeing with people, no matter where I go in the world, right? I think there's sort of uh, just maybe I don't know, a bit of reflection, I suppose, on like what exactly are we doing? And when I talk to people at tech companies, for sure, it's like it's definitely a bit of a meat grinder right now, right? Even you
Yeah.
get paid a lot of money, but that's no guarantee that that will be around tomorrow. So I think when you see, it's such a contrast to where we were in 2020 and 2021 when, uh, well, around this time actually was about the 50th year anniversary of COVID lockdowns and but so if you reflect back on that time, right? Like the everything is kind of falling out from underneath everybody. Gave it a few weeks, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's hire like mad. And so that's what happened. And it was a euphoric time. It was like the sky's the limit. I would hear people say that, nothing's going to stop this. It's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Um, and then, then it did. And, but, but what's interesting is a lot of companies are posting, pretty decent profits, sometimes record profits. And these same companies are, um, letting
Yeah.
go of workers. And I think that just creates a tremendous amount of insecurity and burnout for sure. I mean, I've done several podcast episodes on burnout, and it's a real thing. I mean, people who are, making great money by any standard, or just, they're table flipping, so to speak, and just so it is interesting. And then with the rise of AI, I suppose there's this speculation like, well, do we need to hire more engineers, or are we just good doing AI now because it's really amazing?
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating time, but this is happening in in non-technical fields as well. So I just think there's a lot of trepidation about what does AI hold for the workforce, in the next 10 years, for example. Nobody knows. So
And
we're,
that's
we're
why
yeah.
And that's why I think your Discord's so important because it just kind of gives people a place to feel community and chat
Oh
and
yeah.
um, just chat with people and that does make people feel better about burnout. It's like, do you feel like you're overworked? Yeah, I feel overworked. Why? Because
Yeah.
like, there's all this AI stuff around us that, I have to research every day and answer questions about. Meanwhile, the stuff that we built 10 years ago, I'm still maintaining it. Right. So it's like, how do you do
Yeah.
both?
It's hard. It's hard. So I definitely, I definitely feel a lot of empathy for people, who are at stages of burnout in their career. I mean, I've been there before. It sucks. I mean, I decided that I probably wasn't fit to have a proper job, so just
Yeah.
never haven't had one for years. But yeah, but that's not for everybody, right? And I think some people find satisfaction in the community that a job brings them, and the sense of purpose. So it's definitely interesting right now for sure. But I think one of the reasons I wanted to start the Discord community was just I think to provide people a place where they can talk and you know, uh, again, kind of reading the room, right? I think that's what people wanted. They wanted a place where they could have conversations, I think, in a very candid way. I don't jump in and censor anybody, really. I'm like, if you want to, whatever you say is on you, as long as it's not like grossly like terrible, then I might have a problem with it. But I definitely believe in setting up a free speech zone for people. They can just say what they want. I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, community is important. I think more and more, it's going to be probably the most important thing there is. So
Yeah. Yeah. That human connection in the time of AI is going to be much more unique and desired by people and just I it'll definitely be interesting to see what part. I mean, people the lazy trope these days is that AI is going to replace everybody. I anyone who's actually practical knows that AI is not even close to doing that. But you do have to figure out how is AI going to come into your workflow because I think what will happen is like people that refuse to use AI the right way, and we haven't decided what the right way is yet. But people who refuse to use AI will probably get replaced to some extent. And
oh
the
yeah, I mean,
rest
a
of
simple
people,
person. But in the 80s and 90s, I remember there were people who were just insistent on using paper for everything.
yeah,
I had an old boss that would have all the emails printed out. And he was a boss too, so whatever. But I mean, the whole point is like, some people catch up with the time, some people don't. I don't know, but
yeah, and
I use it
like
all the time.
it's going to just create like a new category of productive people, right? So like uh Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, famously said, "Oh yeah, I'm like, within 12 to 18 months, AI is going to replace engineers." Like, okay, why do you have all these job postings to hire all these
Yeah.
engineers that you're supposedly going to replace? Okay,
If you're
it's not like
if you're applying for that job, you'd be like, okay, like I have a job for how long?
yeah, writing the code to replace myself forever.
Yeah.
No, I mean, reality is that yeah, AI engineers will be the future, right?
Yeah.
People, engineers who know how to use AI, and FinOps people who know how to use AI, and data people that know how to use AI, and
Oh
those
yeah.
are efficiencies, or people who just come up with a really good reason why they should never use AI, and they're credible enough where that their word is essentially bond with their organizations and they trust them enough
Mhm.
to believe that. Like we can't have this process run through an LLM because it's too critical. Like, um,
Yeah.
so, but I think the best way to follow along with it is just, you know, being active there and thinking about how you can solve real problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, lean into it. It's awesome. There's this the cool thing what's happening now is just the rate of innovation, the rate of releases is it's mind bending. Just how much stuff is announced every week, basically. It's awesome. I mean, it's jarring. I can't keep up. I don't know if you can. I mean, I'm just like, I'll just find what's interesting to my use case and go with that. I don't have time or the energy to expound on every single possibility of this stuff. Um, but maybe that's the whole point. You just pick what works for you, for your situation, and go with it. But there's no shortage of great tools and offerings out there. The models get better every week. It's so cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what a
yeah,
time. It's
yeah.
like in the internet age, it would be like if you had if you went from like copper to fiber optic, that whole transition in like an hour across societies. Like that's about how fast things are happening right now. I just made up a
Yeah.
number, maybe do the math on it, but it's like, it's about that quick. I mean, I grew up on copper modems, I think, what, 1200 baud or something like that, maybe less, but it was like, that's what I started on copper line. Now
Yeah.
it's, I have like 8 gig Google Fiber at my house, up and
Oh, wow.
down. Yeah, it's like that. If you were told me as a scrappy teenager hitting bulletin board services in the early '90s that I'd be using 8 gig of fiber, I'd be like, that's it's impossible. Like how? It's like science
Yeah.
fiction, right? So
Yeah. It's moving incredibly fast. And, like, yeah, you just gotta kind of find the best way to make it work for you, and
yeah,
actually try this stuff out. Like, with MCP, like I was saying, like that was the big craze last week, and it didn't really hit me why it's useful until I went through, Matt Palmer
yeah,
at Replit. I ran through
good dude.
his example code, and I was like, okay, I could see how this could be useful now. And you ultimately have to just wade through kind of the AI slop out there, talk to people in the community, go to that curated list of experts
Yeah,
who really can kind of discern this stuff. And I think that's the best thing people can do right now, and it ultimately will save them time.
oh yeah, embrace
Yeah,
the AI.
yeah, why not? Yeah. Well, Joe, always good catching up with you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
I'm sure by the next time I see you, you would have circled the globe 4 more times.
Who knows?
Meanwhile,
If I see you next week, then probably not. But who knows? There's a few
yeah,
trips in the docket coming up. Yeah. So, but I'll probably actually see you. I'm gonna be in San Francisco soon. So, or at least the
yeah. Let me
area.
know when you're here.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot going on in San Francisco, of course. I mean, it's
Oh
definitely
man,
like
it's just wonderful. There's so much happening there. It's so cool. So,
yeah, it's definitely, yeah. San Francisco is definitely. I mean, I left when it was dead, and now I'm kind of back, and I can. It was really dead when we left in 2020, like in the middle of COVID. It was like
mhm.
a zombie. It was like a zombie ghost town, basically. I mean, things were boarded
It
up.
felt like that. I was there. It was nothing going on. You had every reason to
Now,
leave.
now you can definitely feel the like just like the AI and like the builder energy for sure. So I do mention that to people that it's palpable, and I see it every week.
Yeah. There's so many events going on. Just so much action happening, and it's awesome. I'm inspired every time I get out there. I also don't really want to live there, so I'm glad I live in Salt Lake City, where I can just take an hour, 20-minute flight to get there. And, but it's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same story for me. Living in LA on weekends and San Francisco during the week, and yeah, that's kind of the balance that we're looking for.
it's living right. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, good
well, man,
catching
thanks.
up, Joe.
Yeah, likewise. See you around.
Yeah, see you around. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of What's New in Data. We'll have links out to Joe's Discord and all the other places you can follow him down in the show notes. All right, Joe, see you around.
All right, take care. See you.